I want to share what you said to me because it really was so impactful to me. And again, I worked in HR for 25 years. I've negotiated many, many offers on the other side of the table, right? But it's a little different when you're doing it for yourself. So I remember what you said to me because the offer came in lower than I thought it was going to be. And I remember you said to me, you said, it's not about what they're willing to pay you, it's what you are worth. And here's the number that you are worth. And you had done your research and you had looked into what I should be paid. And you said, don't ever take less than what you're worth. And it really just kind of shifted my thinking because I think on my own, if I hadn't been in this program and hadn't had the coaching from you, I think I probably would have negotiated a little more than what they offered, but not what I got.
Hi, I'm Blake Schofield, founder and CEO of The Bridge to Fulfillment, mom to 3, USA Today top 10 professional coach, and former corporate executive who got tired of sacrificing my life for a comfortable paycheck. My mission is to expand women's perspectives and empower them to achieve greater impact at home and work without sacrifice. This is The Bridge to Fulfillment. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of The Bridge to Fulfillment. I'm really excited to share Stephanie's story with you, or actually, I'm really excited to share Stephanie with you and have her share her amazing journey and story with you. You know, Stephanie's somebody that came into this program really having spent a lot of time trying to figure out what the right path was for her, and very quickly was able to take the resources, tools, support in this program and make some tremendous progress. But what's been such a fun journey for me in this partnership with you, Stephanie, is to watch your mentorship and your inspiration of the other women in this program. Not only have you had amazing inspirational results, but to watch how much you inspired the women on these calls every week when you joined made it very clear to me that this is the perfect forum for you to be able to expand what it is that you have to share to more women, because I know you'll do the same for anyone that's listening here today. So welcome. So happy to have you this morning.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Awesome. So Stephanie, can you do me a little favor and just share with our audience a little bit about your background, who you are, and what was going on in your life when we connected?
Sure. So about 4 months ago, I got laid off from my job. I was working in an industry that's just going through a lot of turmoil right now. So I did get laid off from my job, and I had been this whole entire year focused on, I ran for school board in my town and I won, and literally 2 weeks later I got laid off. So talk about the highs and the lows of life, like all sort of coming together. And my daughter graduated high school 3 days after I got laid off. So there was just a lot going on in terms of like, where am I in my life? Where do I want to be in my life? And the interesting part about it was, you know, when I got the call that I was going to be let go, I was very calm. I was like internally, I knew that this was going to be an opportunity for me to do something different, but I just wasn't sure what that was. So I'm like, let me just kind of get through this graduation. Let me just sort of take a step back. But then sort of became the stress of, okay, what is that next thing, right? I felt like it was time to not just do the thing that I'd been doing before, which, you know, and I'd never been laid off before. So that was a new experience. But I went on LinkedIn and some of the other job boards and looked for jobs, and it just like, it didn't resonate. I don't want these jobs. I don't want to do this. And so I thought, you know, let me just, again, take this as an opportunity to step back and kind of figure it out. And that's when I came across your program again. I had known about you and had listened to some of your podcasts a few years ago, and remember thinking, oh, this lady seems to kind of know what she's doing. I had to pay attention. And I was following you on LinkedIn. And then I think I saw a post on LinkedIn one day, a couple of weeks after I'd gotten laid off. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to reach out and get that consultation and just see what this is all about, find out a little bit more about what this program is and how it can help me. Because I feel like I need something, and I didn't know what that something was, but I think I knew deep down that I needed some help and I wasn't going to be able to get where I wanted to go on my own. Mm-hmm. So that's what sort of brought me here.
Awesome. So you have this deep background in human resources. We were just talking. I said, I love my HR ladies. I started my career out in HR, and I just love people, and HR people usually are. But there were some twists and turns, right? There were some things that had been happening in your career for the last several years that were maybe signs and symptoms that you were unfulfilled, that your life was misaligned, that there were some things that weren't a match. Can you share a little bit about that? Because I think sometimes when we're going through life, we're experiencing these things and we don't know, is it just me? There's something wrong with me? Is it just the circumstances? Will it get better? So can you share a little bit about what was that journey like for you looking back?
Sure. So I moved to Texas from California 9 years ago because I got promoted to a job out here, and it was with the same company, much more responsibility in terms of scope and team and client group and all of that. And I moved out here, and it was like I worked for a totally different company. The environment in California had been great and supportive, and my boss was a huge advocate of mine. And I came out here just kind of assuming it would be close, right, to the same type of thing I experienced in California. And it was just a completely different environment. It was not good. It was very toxic. I tried to address it the best I could, and ultimately I had to leave that organization. I went to another one, and it kind of was the same thing. It's like it started out good, and then it just got bad. And just in terms of what I'm able to do and what I bring, what my skill set is, was not valued at all. And what they wanted was something totally different than who I am. And I spent all this time in both of those jobs, right, trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. And I realized that maybe it started out fine, right, but then it became not fine. And so then I was going to try to fix it. And I was going to try to at least manage it until I could find something else, which I did. In the second case, I managed it until I found something else. But in the meantime, all that stress, right, and all that trying to fix something that wasn't going to be fixed, no matter what I did. So I did that, left that company to go to my last company, which was a good job, and I enjoyed the environment, but I still felt a little bit stuck. Like there's so much more I could be doing and contributing if I was just sort of given the freedom to do that. And even though I liked the job and wasn't looking to leave, obviously, right, they say life is what happens when you're making other plans. And so I didn't have any plans to leave that organization, at least not for a little while. I was forced to leave and really kind of take a look at what is not only what kind of job I want, but what kind of environment I want. And that's the piece that this program, I think, really helped me get clear on, is let me just take a step back and figure out, like, what do I want this work environment to look like? And I did that. And that really helped me kind of figure that out. And it also enabled me, I honestly didn't spend a ton of time on the job search, because I know in the program, you're supposed to be focused on the program, right? But I really, I would go through the ads just to sort of see if something sparked my interest. And so many of them were like, no, don't want to do that. No, that's not for me. I should probably apply for that, but I just feel like I shouldn't. So I didn't. And it was just interesting because I'd never approached a job search that way before. It was usually like apply for every job that you might be remotely qualified for, hope someone calls, gives you an offer, and then you take it, and then you hope for the best, right? That was kind of my strategy when I was in the position of looking for a job. And I didn't do that here. I didn't do that at all. And it fortunately worked out.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah, we approach things, I like to say we sort of approach things the opposite approach, and that's why it works so well. It's the unconventional approach, and it's why we get outsized results in this program nobody else does. There's a couple of things, I know about the background, so I'd love to dig in a little bit more if I can. You were talking about these patterns of going into a job. It's what I call the roller coaster. I come in, honeymoon period, I love it, and then I don't. There were some things that you were doing personally to try and offset your unhappiness in your roles. Can you share a little bit about that? And what did that lead you to start to believe? Because when you came, you had some perspectives about what was and wasn't possible for you potentially in corporate. There was a lot of debate there because you had discovered some things personally you really loved that you couldn't find in your corporate life. Can you share anything about that?
So about a year and a half ago, I decided to get involved more in what's going on with schools because I saw some things that I just wasn't pleased with. And so I thought, well, I could complain about it or I could do something about it. So I ended up running for school board, which was not an experience that I had ever done. I didn't know how to do it. I asked people who had done it and they gave me great advice. But then I also got advice like, be this or do that. And I thought, I can't do that. I can't pretend to be something that I'm not to get elected. So I'm just going to lean into who I am and what I think. And And I didn't listen to some people paid them for their political advice. I did not pay them. They gave me some free advice and I didn't listen to it because I didn't think it was right for me. And I just sort of did it on my own terms. I saw something that was in need that would resonate within the community. And I decided to step in and fill it. And so I did do that. I did win the election against all odds. I mean, everyone told me, you seem great, but you're going to lose. You're going up against a machine that is very well built. And thanks for running and making it harder for someone else to win, but we love you, but we don't think you're going to win. And I heard that from elected officials, political experts, influential people in my town. And I just said, you know what? I don't think so. I think I can win. I think if I work hard enough and I rally the community, I can win. And so I did. And so the interesting part about that, as it relates to this program, is when we started to go through some of the things like, how do you approach situations and how do you approach things? I was like, well, here's an example. And so I told that example, I think, on a few of our calls and in some of the work that I did on my own with the program. And I thought, this is how I can do a job too, like see an opportunity and then sort of work backwards and then work forward. And I realized that's what I had done in some of the jobs that I had enjoyed the most, is I was doing exactly that same thing that I did. And I didn't make the connection that it was the same. They seemed very separate to me, but in fact, they were the same thing. And I think one time you said, like, how you do one thing is how you do everything. I never got that until I was in this program kind of reviewing my own history of things that I did in high school and what I did in this election and things that I did in jobs I really enjoyed. It like all made sense. That's just who I am and what I do. And so then I was able to take that and share that with my now employer to say, like, listen, here's the deal. Here's what you're going to get with me. Here's what you're not going to get. Here's what you are going to get. So if this works, let's talk about this. If not, then I'm probably not your person. And that's okay too.
Awesome. I love that. Thank you for sharing that, because when we first got on the phone, one of the things you were saying to me is, I don't know. I don't know what the right environment is. I just know I cannot keep doing this. Is it entrepreneurship? I find myself passionate about, right, the school board and doing this work. And it's the place that I've had the most passion in the last couple of years. And I'm not experiencing that passion in my career. And I share that because I think a lot of times women come to me thinking, maybe it is entrepreneurship. Maybe what I want, I can't really find in a corporate role. And sometimes that's true, but often I find it's not. And it's because we don't understand these key things that now you understand, having gone through this process and this work. And so I share that because there may be somebody today that's feeling that way. They may have found a passion in something personally, or they may just feel like that passion's lacking, or they may feel like they can't get the flexibility or the balance that they want to be able to work for somebody else. And often I've seen time and time again, and my clients have been able to prove time and time again that just isn't true. And we'll dig into a little bit about actually how you were able to do some of that for yourself very shortly. But I love kind of talking through this. So thank you for letting us go through that. All right. So you decide, okay, I need help. You are in an interesting position. Often I have women that come to me that have been laid off. And I think it's a tricky situation when you've been laid off and you're thinking about investing in yourself, because there's a ton of unknown. What was that journey like for you? And ultimately, what helped you make the decision to invest in yourself during a time when you didn't know how long it would be till you wouldn't have a paycheck? You didn't know what that journey would look or feel like.
Yeah, that's really hard to invest in yourself when you're not bringing in any money. And I've worked, other than taking a couple of maternity leaves, I've worked since I graduated college full time. And so it's hard to just say, oh, I'm not making any money, so I'm therefore going to spend the money. And I was really torn for a while. Like, what do I do? And my husband even said, well, go get your next job and then do it, right? And then you can do the work and figure out what you really want, but at least you're earning money. And for some reason, that just didn't feel right to me. Like, I just couldn't get around that. But I was still kind of doing this back and forth, like, do I do it? Do I not? And then one day I said, I should call my sister, who does a lot of like coaching, and that's just been who she is her whole life. She's always investing in things like this. But I knew that if I called her, she was going to tell me yes. So I knew that she would. So I thought, I don't know, maybe I just needed some help or someone to kind of push me to get to yes. But I did call her and she asked some really good questions. And I think I even came back and asked you at least one of the questions that she had asked me. And then she said, at some point you just got to go with your gut. And if your gut's telling you that this has come across your path for a reason and you feel good about the coach and you feel like this person can help you, then sometimes you just got to take the plunge and realize it's not a spend, it's an investment.
So, thank you for sharing that. I think this is always the hardest part. And I've had women do exactly what your husband suggested. And the crazy thing is you end up taking a job where you're underpaid. You are miserable. And now you tell yourself, I have to stay in this job at least a year because I just got this job. And so what it does is it prolongs and it actually creates more and more risk and more pain. And so what usually happens is that I get a call and it's like, you know what? I was going to come. I've been looking at all your stuff. I had thought about calling you. I ended up taking this job. I'm 9 months into this job or 12 months into this job, and I'm absolutely miserable. And usually they're right at that end of the breakdown, which is like, I'm going to get either performance plan or layoff or severe burnout. And so it's interesting. I don't know if I knew the full story of like how long you had been following me. So it's always fun when I do these. I learn things I did not know in the journey, is that in some ways that was the same journey for you. And I think that sometimes we think that taking the other job is going to be the faster path, but it never is. Taking the job you don't want, that you're going to be undervalued, is never the faster path. And it also is the path with the most amount of pain, the most amount of risk, and the least amount of benefit. So I'm super glad that you trusted your gut and you're sitting here today with an amazing result and an amazing experience. And honestly, we'll talk about it in a minute, a lot of really wonderful, positive personal things that came from being a part of this and being able to align your life. So thank you for sharing that. So let's talk about it. So you started in the program, Stephanie. What would you share about what that journey was like for you? And is there anything that was maybe unexpected or different than what you expected when you came in?
Well, I don't know how much I expected because it's hard to sort of imagine what it is unless you're in it. But there was, what I appreciated was there was a syllabus, basically, right? A program to follow, right? So it's like, okay, week 1, do this, week 2, do this, week 3. And so that was helpful for me. So I just started doing the things. I didn't really know. I'm like, well, I'm just going to go through the assignments and I'm just going to figure this out. And I'm not going to try to think about the end of the program. I'm just going to try to stay very present in whatever I'm doing that week. So reading the book and going through the different activities. So I was trying to stay very present and not do what I normally do, which is sort of look ahead and figure out what's coming up next. It's like, let me just focus on 1 week at a time. And so I did that. And then in the meantime, I had been dealing with just life stuff and my daughter going off to college and, all these things sort of happening. And I realized that some of the principles that I learned in the program were also kind of applying to life. And my daughter's been dealing with some transition issues at school, like all college freshmen do. And so I was able to give her some of the wisdom that I learned on some of the calls. And I wrote some things down and texted it to her and said, write this down and put it on your bathroom mirror or whatever. Right. So that she could kind of learn, because she was going through some things and needed some of the lessons that I was learning as well. So that was very helpful.
I love that. As a mom, it makes me so happy every time I hear that we can take this and give it back, especially to our kids, because my life would have been drastically different if I knew a lot of these lessons 20 or 30 years ago.
Yes.
That's awesome. So often in this process, I hear women ask a lot of questions about timing of landing role and what that looks like and what's the flexibility and the ability to tailor. Your journey, we had to tailor quite significantly, especially at the beginning, because of this opportunity that came your way that ended up being the perfect and right opportunity for you. What can you share about that? What that experience was like in terms of your job opportunity coming up so early and what that was like having a partner with you in this? Because often I hear from women that are like, well, I'm in my job search, so could I just get this job on my own anyway? Or maybe I should finish interviewing for these jobs before I come in the program. And I think you have an opportunity and a viewpoint of what it looks like to do this process with a partner who has that expertise to be able to help you. So can you share, what would you like to share about that experience?
Yes, I'd be happy to share about that because that was important. So yeah, I'm working through the week at a time, right? And trying to stay very focused on the program. And then all of a sudden I got an offer. I reached out to you right away and you got back to me and we had a call, and it really was so beneficial. And because I want to share what you said to me, because it really was so impactful to me. And again, I've worked in HR for 25 years. I've negotiated many offers on the other side of the table, right? But it's a little different when you're doing it for yourself, right? So I remember what you said to me because the offer came in lower than I thought it was going to be. And I remember you said to me, it's not about what they're willing to pay you, it's what you are worth. And here's the number that you are worth. And you had done your research and you had looked into what I should be paid. And you said, don't ever take less than what you're worth. And it really just kind of shifted my thinking, because I think on my own, if I hadn't been in this program and hadn't had the coaching from you, I think I probably would have negotiated a little more than what they offered, but not what I got, because it just gave me this confidence. It shifted my mindset to ask for what you're worth, not what they're willing to pay. So I went back and I said, here's my number. And oh, by the way, this is not a director level role. This is a VP role. And here's why I know that. And they wanted to give me all these other departments besides HR. And so I said, this is really a vice president role. And that is what I'm willing to do. And he said, okay, that was basically it. The CEO said, okay. So it really just showed me. And the interesting part was, my husband negotiates and does sales for a living, and he always kind of helps me through these things. And so he gave me his advice, and then I got your advice. And then I went back and told him your advice, and he said, that was really good. He said, I like that. That was really good. He said, I may use that. What I'm worth, not what you're willing to pay me. And so between the two, I got the money that I was asking for and a bonus structure that I feel good about that will help really recognize the value that I bring to the company. And I got that VP title, which I hadn't ever had before. I'd always been kind of director or senior director level. I'd sort of been chasing this VP title and then thinking maybe it would never happen. Maybe it wasn't meant to be. Maybe that's just not what I'm meant to do here. But now I got it just because I didn't really ask. I just sort of said, this is what this is. So it was very good advice. And that one-on-one. And then also the other thing that you helped me do, just to kind of continue and add another aspect to the question that you asked, was when I got the offer, I was not at that point in the program yet. So I didn't know what to do. I'm trying to follow this weekly program and everything got upended basically. And you worked with me to say, okay, let's flip these around, focus on these three things, skip these ones for now. And so I really felt like it was tailored towards me and met me where I was at, because it would have been not very effective for me to continue at the pace that I was on because of where I was at. I needed to kind of move ahead and then kind of go back and pick up some of the pieces that I missed that were still valuable. It all builds on itself, but you have to be able to pivot and change. And you helped me do that. And that was really, really important and valuable to me as I went through this process.
Awesome. I'm so proud of you and what you've been able to accomplish. We're going to take a little bit of a step backwards in just a minute and kind of go into what that job search process was like, because even though you had interviewed for that job beforehand, there was a lot of debate. Do I actually go for this? Is this the right company? And we actually worked together to navigate that before we even got to the networking or to the negotiation piece. But to your point, you had interviewed for this company before you came in. I remember it was fairly early on as we were doing the work, and you said, hey, I have this company. I just don't know. They're kind of small. They're not based in Texas. I don't know. Is this the right thing for me? Do you remember that journey and how we kind of partnered together? Because I think that's an important piece. It wasn't just like, hey, I interviewed and then boom, I got this offer. There was actually some debate, some discussion about what to do with this. And is this the right move? And I loved watching you through that process, because it was through that process that you were empowered to be able to come back and get what you wanted.
Yeah, it's a small company. It's back east. And a lot of the work in HR that sometimes HR folks are asked to do is not something that I wanted to do, related to kind of outside social issues, political issues, things like that. It's just not what I want to do at work. And a lot of the jobs I had learned, since I had been looking for a job previously, that was part of it, just because of the way the world has changed. And that is just not what I just want to focus on the work and develop the people and make the people happy and bring in the right people and be strategic about how to position the company and things like that. So as I was evaluating this opportunity, this small company, I just kind of put it out there. Like, I don't know what possessed me to do it, other than the confidence that I got in this program to ask for what I want, but I never would have done this before. I was having a conversation with the CEO, who's now my boss, and we were just kind of talking about environment and who I am and what I can bring to the table. And I was just like, well, just to be clear, like, if this is what you're looking for, then I'm not your person. And I wasn't trying to talk them out of hiring me, but I realized I wasn't really trying to convince him to hire me either. I was really just sort of standing in who I am and what I want and where I knew I would be happy, and just get it out there so that we don't waste time, right? I got other stuff to do. I got a program to work through. I've got a school board to sit on. I've got a daughter going off to college. Like, I don't want to waste time if I'm not your person. And so it was funny because he kind of paused for a sec. He's like, well, we don't do any of that here. So that'll be just fine. Like we're not looking for that either, because you just don't know. And I just knew that I didn't want to do that. I'd seen that kind of done around me and other companies. And to me, it's just a distraction and just not something I'm passionate about. For those people that like it, that's fine. But for me, it just wasn't something I wanted to do, especially as I was looking at these higher level roles and might be needing to manage some of these things that I don't feel passionate about. So I just put it out there and it worked out. And it was important for me to do that, though, I think. Yeah, I think that's maybe where I got in trouble before, is like I said, square peg, round hole, trying to make it fit when it doesn't.
100%. And I'll never forget, because we had been talking about this and you came to one of the calls and you were saying, I have this small company. I just don't know. I don't know if they're ready for me. I don't know if they're ready for the scope of work that I can do. They're not located here. Is it worth me investigating? Is it worth me pursuing? And I remember having that conversation and saying to you, well, you should ask, right? You should ask for what you want. Why don't you continue to pursue it? Why don't you identify and understand what it was? And I even remember a week or two later, you came back and you said to me, everyone works in their physical location. They don't do anything remote. And I am not moving. I'm not moving my family. But we had a whole conversation. What I loved that happened through this process is, and this is where I think having a partner can be so helpful, because I think if that opportunity had come before, you may have just said no. You may have just passed on it. You would have said, this is not going to be the right fit, because there were so many things as you were looking at it. They were like, I don't really know. But through this process, we were able to talk together and use it as a learning opportunity. And because you were detached from the outcome, because you were clear on who you were and what you needed, you were able to show up in those conversations with the CEO, truly being who you were and saying, this is who I am and this is what I care about. And if this is what you want, great. And if you're looking for this other thing, I'm not your person. And even through that process too, you were able to have some dialogue and discussion about, listen, I'm really excited about this opportunity, but I'm not willing to move. But I also don't think I need to move to be successful in this role. Can you share a little bit about that part of the journey? Because I think often, we get very black and white. I either get everything or I get nothing. It's either the right fit or it's the wrong fit. And we don't actually investigate things. But also, one of the things I think that's really beautiful about your story is you are a trailblazer, period. That's just who you are. It's how you were able to run for school board with no background to be able to pull it off. It's how you really work best. But you also became a trailblazer in this interview process and creating something new for this company. And I hope that in you sharing this story, it will inspire people that are listening right now to understand what's actually possible. That just because something doesn't exist today, or just because it looks like it's a no, doesn't mean that it actually is.
Yeah, that's a great point. And so the job was advertised as remote. And I think they meant remote in their state and not remote anywhere. So I applied. Like I said, before I started the program, I applied. And then they called me, the CEO called me and we talked and he said, so are you open to moving back east? And I said, no. And then I said, but I don't know that you need that. I don't know that you need someone sitting in your actual state to do this job. I've been managing remote for 10 years for people who reported to me who lived somewhere else as part of the jobs that I had. And so I said, I think it could work. And I wouldn't have had the confidence to do that without this program. I probably would have just said, no, I'm not willing, but it was so nice to talk to you. I hope you find your person. Have a nice day. But instead, I was like, you know what? You don't need anyone in your state. This can still work. And he was kind of hesitating, right? In fairness, he had never done this before. He didn't really get it. And we had a subsequent conversation where I could tell he wanted me to talk him into it. When you just sort of feel like, I want to hire you, but I can't get past this, so please convince me. It felt like that. So what I said to him was, how about we do this? And it just popped into my head. I just said, how about we do this? How about you bring me on board as a consultant, a contractor for 90 days, and we just try it. And if it doesn't work for you, then I'll hire you your person in your state. I'll do that for you as part of this consulting arrangement. And if it works, then we'll transition to an employment arrangement. And he says, okay, I'm going to get you, something in writing. And I'm starting to think about like, what would I charge and for an hourly rate? Because I've never done this kind of thing before. So I'm like doing research. And then he calls me back and he says, okay, an offer letter's coming your way. And I assumed it was as a consultant, but he didn't say that. He said offer letter. So I said, well, can I just clarify? Do you mean an employment offer letter or just to like put some terms of our consulting arrangement? This was probably about a week later, give or take. And he said, no. He said, I'm over all that. We're just going to bring you on board. And then he sent over the offer letter, which again, you helped me negotiate that offer, right? But I think he just needed a little push. And he keeps, every time he introduces me to people, now that I've been on board, he said, she's our first one. She's the first remote employee that we have. And he's open to, we have an accounting position open, and he's open to hiring that wherever we need to go to find the right person. So it's kind of changed the company. And with what this company does, they're not going to be able to do that with the majority of their roles, but for the back office kind of administrative roles, they're open to it, and everyone seems fine with it. So far, so good. So
I love it. I love it so much because it truly is a story of opportunity and trailblazing and possibility. And so this is a place I think is really beautiful because if you put all these things together, right? Yes, you had been in the interview process. Yes, you had actually had an initial interview, but when you start putting together the pieces of what you got through this program, the confidence, the clarity, the support, the ability to negotiate, you can look at that and directly tie it to the fact I'm the trailblazer. I'm the very first remote employee ever for this entire company. And now I've been able to shift the CEO's perspective about doing more of that and how amazing that is because now it opens up the talent pool to so many more people. Right? I negotiated tens of thousands of dollars more than I would have negotiated on my own. I negotiated the VP title I thought was elusive, but I finally got. And by the way, all of this is happening and you're putting your daughter off to college and all of these things. And you were able to in such a beautiful way, have your severance and spend time with your family and do all of this. It's just such a beautiful story of power. And by the way, you now hold our record for, in addition to, I guess, holding the record for the company as the first remote employee, you now hold our record as the fastest client to her dream role in 5.5 weeks. And a lot of that did happen through this partnership between you and I of how do we just maintain the momentum each time something new was happening, right? To your point, what do we focus on the next right thing? But what's been amazing is you've continued to come and learn every single week and continue to gain benefit. Well, Stephanie, this has been such a wonderful conversation. I feel like I could continue on for a lot longer, but I know we both have a hard stop. So would love just to maybe end by asking you, is there anything that you haven't shared yet or I haven't asked yet that I should have asked you? Or is there anything you haven't shared yet that you really want to make sure that you share to those that could really benefit that were in the situation that you were in?
Yeah, I think two things. First would be trust your gut. My gut was telling me to do this. And then I let all these other reasons kind of get in my head, the money, whatever else, right? Trust your gut. If your gut is leading you to this program, then trust it and do it because I can't imagine it not helping anyone. I mean, I can't imagine anyone going through this program and not gaining a lot of insight and knowledge and help in their life. That's what my sister told me. We all need a coach for stuff. So just trust your gut. The other thing that I guess I would say is I found it really powerful and important when I was on these calls, hearing the other women's stories because, you'd have women who were a little further in the program. You'd have women that started basically the same time I did. And then after I was in for a few weeks, there were newer people. And I think the ability to just be able to listen to their stories and really, I tried really hard to be present because sometimes it's, you're really kind of digging in with these women on what it is that they're trying to communicate about themselves and learn about themselves. And in everyone's story, I found some similarity to my own story, some more profound than others. But every single one, I was able to see a piece of myself in that story. And that was really powerful. So I could see going through this program and not being on those calls with those other women. And I would not recommend that at all. I think that those are critical. And I got something out of it every time I did it. So that was great. Thank you for everything. It was such a huge thing that I was able to participate in this. And you helped me so much. Just those mindset shifts, it really just made a difference. So if there's anything I can ever do in the future, I'm happy to help you in whatever way I can.
Wonderful. Thank you. The calls are a big part of my heart because, I started this program just doing one-on-ones, but I started seeing the constant patterns and I had clients actually wanting community. And then as I started to bring women in community, I started to see 4 to 5 times the amount of learning and transformation because there's a power in seeing that you're not alone. To your point, there's a power in being able to see, what she's experiencing, I've also experienced, or maybe, wow, that approach is the polar opposite of the approach I would take. I didn't even realize that people don't see it the way I see it. There's such huge power in that. And then what it does is enables you to take that back as a leader, right? As a leader in your home with your children, as a leader for you and the school board or the other things you're involved in, and as a leader inside your organization. And I definitely saw you flourish and do that. And I know that you'll take all of the things that you've learned here to really continue to benefit all of those people that you are able to touch. So thank you so much, Stephanie. I cannot appreciate you enough. To be just a part of this journey with you has been amazing. And we still have a little bit more to go. And I appreciate you really coming and sharing your journey to help inspire others. So for those of you guys that are listening, I hope you got at least one profound piece. I have a feeling you got more than that about what's really possible for your life and about the power of trusting your gut, investing in yourself, right? And learning how to stand in your worth and value, really understand who you are and speak to that instead of trying to be a round peg, trying to fit inside a square hole, which is, I think, what so many of us are doing and why so many of us are misaligned and unhappy in our lives. So until next time, have a great one. Thanks for joining me today. Rather than hope the grass will be greener, identify what the right next step is. We can help you do just that. Get clarity on where you are in your journey to career fulfillment, where you're headed, optimal paths to get there, and the right next step to take. Start your complimentary personalized career fulfillment plan at www.thebridgetofulfillment.com/plan. Again, you can get your personalized career fulfillment plan at thebridgetofulfillment.com/plan. Thanks again for joining and have a great week ahead.